lesson is really, boy, it was. I learned a lot in the process of getting ready. Hope that there'll be something for you as well. But remember that this week we're continuing on the character counts series of lessons. We started with godliness. Somebody want to mention what godliness talked about? What does that mean to be a godly person?
Living a Christ-like, having a Christ-like character.
Yeah, absolutely. Character is what we started with, and godliness is really is the note that Mimi's got up here is a manifestation of God in our lives. It's that the way that you walk through your life, people recognize your relationship with God through just how you do your daily stuff, and that is that's sort of an overview of all of these things. It's not really just a one specific area of life. It encompasses all of this that we're going to talk about. The next one was last week, and we talked about humility. What did we pick up from that? Someone?
To be kind.
Be kind. Okay.
Think of others ahead of yourself.
Okay, think of others.
Yourself.
Right. Others before Jesus, others yourself. Remember, maybe ended that with that acronym of JOY, Jesus, others, and yourself. And remember the verse that was talked about, it says, don't do things, don't merely look out for your own interest, but also for the interest of others. And so it's kind of an interesting thing because it doesn't tell you don't look out for your interests. It says make sure that you're looking out for the interest of others first. Make sure that you're putting others ahead of yourself in that order. And so it is important that you look out for your family and yourself and take care of things, but others matter even more. And, lots of examples of what Jesus did for us in putting all of us ahead of himself, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's how that love is shown. So, and humility also involves not pointing the finger back at yourself, If you're going to be a generous person and give, you don't have to have the building have your name on it, right? It needs to be. So it's about being humble. It's like not looking for any kind of acclaim out of the good things that you might do in life. And really that comes from the motivation more so than the practical aspect of what the gift is. That my motivation was to do the right thing and to help somebody else or to encourage somebody else or whatever, not for what would reflect back on me, right? And so tough one to do in our world, but humility is a golden trait in your life. All right, so today we're going to talk about contentment, and it comes out of the passage that we're going to look at is in Philippians 4, starting in verse 10, and we're going to actually walk through all of that. So let me just tell you up front, the goal of today is I want to spend the first part of the time walking through that really 5 of those 10 passages one by one and just kind of us talking through what each one means and doesn't mean. And then at the end, I've got a list of 5 very practical areas of life that we can look at ourselves and say, how am I doing? How's my life stacking up in the world of contentment? Am I reflecting contentment in my life? So that's the goal that we're trying to accomplish. Okay, so let me start with this. We talk about this in America in particular these days a lot. 3 questions. How much is needed? What do you really need in order to get by and survive? How much is enough? How much makes where you feel satisfied? And then the last one is how much is too much? Because we talk about that too. I saw a thing the other day about what kind of, it was a Waffle House. It was a posting somebody made of the head of Waffle House makes however many millions of dollars a year, and it would take the average worker, 300 years to earn as much money as that person makes. So there's, how much do you need? How much do you need to just get by? How much is enough? Like at what point are you satisfied? And then lastly, how much do we think is too much? And we talk about those things, in politics and in life a lot, especially here in America, because we all, even the poorest among us, has a pretty high standard of living relative to the rest of the world, right? Okay, so we're going to jump into Philippians 4, and if y'all would just kind of follow along with me. I'm going to read, and I'm reading out of the New American Standard, but follow along with whatever version you've got with you today. So Philippians 4, verse 10 says this, but I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now at last you have revived your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned before, but you lacked opportunity to act. Before I go too much into that, this was a letter written to the church in Philippi by Paul, probably from Rome, but definitely from prison. And it was written somewhere around AD 62, which that doesn't really matter that much to us, other than to note that a lot of his other letters had already been written. A lot of his other ministry had already happened by this point in his life. And so you'll see in a minute why that seems to matter, because when he talks about what he's been through it already. But so he rejoices that he's received something from them, and they've revived their concern. So they had sent him support before. And earlier in the book, he talks about he had more than once he had received gifts from them of support, but here they are doing it again. And the implication here is there's been some piece of time between the last time he had heard from them and gotten any kind of support from them. But he also credits them with the fact that they were the only one of the churches that he started that was supporting him. They had supported him when he was in what was it? Thessalonica, I believe, just right around the corner from where they lived. When he was there, they were supporting him then. Well, now he's maybe as far away as Rome, which is, I was looking it up in the map. It's a long way. It's a boat ride, especially in those days. And so it's not like they were sending somebody 3 counties over. This is literally across the sea to get to him. But he's received this and he's rejoicing in it, and rejoicing not only because they gave him a gift, but they this has been some period of time, and it's just a reminder when he's far away that they're still thinking about him. Isn't that neat when you get a card or a letter or something from somebody you haven't heard from in a long time, and it just it makes you feel good that they still remember you, they're still thinking about you, they're still working with him. And so he just mentions that in the past they lacked opportunity. I don't know what the opportunity they lacked, maybe distance, maybe resources, I don't know. But he recognizes that this is not a new concern, that they always were concerned about him. And so he's kind of praising him there. Look at verse 11. He says, not that I speak from need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. So he's starting off. Did this just fall out of me?
That's a yellow
I think that might be your sock, man. Okay. Hopefully that won't be the only thing y'all remember today. I just stepped on it and thought, where was it? Okay. Verse 11.
It's going the second mile.
He said, not that I speak from need, but I've learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. What was the first thing that pops to your mind when you read that particular verse? There's a big one for me. Look at that verse. Learn, yeah.
What about the verse that Mimi taught us? That I am not ashamed of the gospel, for the power of the gospel leads to the power of the gospel that brings salvation to everyone.
Okay.
I remember that verse that she taught us.
Okay, but we're talking about contentment now. And in this context, he says, I have learned to be content. Man, that's huge to me, because contentment doesn't come natural for me at all.
No.
I like to compete. I grew up as a little kid playing ball and doing stuff, and I love to play games. Even to this day, we have family competitions that involve. We get very serious, So we compete a lot, and yet contentment is a learned behavior. So you have to learn to be able to not always be competitive, but you can learn to be content. Yes.
The verse I'm thinking of is, "Be still and know that I am
God. Yeah.
Be still." Yes.
Be still. Yeah.
But I think that word learned comforted me at a point in my life that I thought, oh, if Paul had to learn it, then maybe I'm okay. That would.
Yeah, and it's not only that he learned it, but it's just a reminder to us, like you said weeks ago, it doesn't matter as much where we are right now as it are we moving in the right direction? Is sanctification taking hold? Am I growing in my contentment? Yes.
I think gratitude would have to play in there with contentment.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure. Gratitude's big. Yes.
So learn when you read this, or to me, it's immediately like, okay, he learned it. But to me, when I think about it, it's over and over and over and over. You know, failure and
Yes.
okay, I got it right. No, I didn't get it right.
Yeah.
It takes
That's
forever to learn. For me, it takes forever sometimes to learn.
for sure. Yes.
Yes, with the situation we are now, we've never lived with anybody. Because of the problem we have with our house, we are living with a Muslim. And guess what? We are content. Because whatever the situation is, God has a reason for it.
All right. That's
I have a question.
yes.
How do you learn contentment?
That's a great question.
How do you?
And we're
How do you
going.
It's
say-
natural.
It's not natural. I don't
To
think.
me, it's natural.
Okay.
Now, what about the first part of Philippians, to rejoice always, and did not say rejoice?
Yeah.
Be gracious to everyone, because somebody's watching.
Okay.
Do not worry about food, or what you're going to eat, or
Got
what
it.
you're going to drink. And he says, think of these things as just,
Right.
honest, right,
Okay.
stuff like that.
All right, Randy.
The way you have to learn it, you have to go through something. And I know I talk about the Army in here a lot, but after having been elective duty and all this other stuff, when people ask me, you know, hey, you too hot, I always say now, as long as you don't make me sleep on the ground, I'm fine. But it's learned behavior.
Well, that's
I've done
right.
a lot worse than that.
I'm gonna hold on to your question though, because we're gonna cover a bunch of things we can do. Okay, so stick with me. I promise we'll get there. But he's learned it, and so contentment is learned and develops through your life and your experiences. You're going to experience things, and you know he talks about it here. Whatever circumstances. Let's look at verse 12 because it kind of tags onto that. I know how to get along with little. I also know how to live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I've learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both having abundance and suffering need. Something I learned this week, I never knew this or had never thought of it, but the phrase get along with little that he uses here is the same phrase that he uses in another place where he talks about Jesus humbled himself even to death, even death on a cross. And so it's not even just about not having as many resources as you did. It's truly humbling yourself in a way that you've been. So it's not necessarily physical. It's not like I've just been without food as though that's a just thing. But I've suffered rejection. I've suffered things outside of physical discomfort. I've been cold and other things. Let me read to you what 2 Corinthians 11:23 through 28 says. Just as I said a minute ago, he's writing this in AD 62. He had already written earlier in the book about some of the things he's been through as he's ministered for the Lord. Listen to this in 2 Corinthians 11:23 to 28. Are they servants of Christ? I'm speaking as if insane. I'm more so, in far more labors, in far more imprisonments, beaten times without number, often in danger of death. 5 times I received from the Jews 39 lashes. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A day and a night have I spent adrift at sea. I've been on frequent journeys and dangers from rivers and dangers from robbers, dangers from my countrymen, dangers from the Gentiles, dangers in the city, dangers in the wilderness, dangers at sea, dangers among false brothers. I've also been in labor and hardship, through many sleepless nights, in hunger and thirst, often without food, in cold and exposure. Apart from such external things, is the daily pressure on me of concern for all the churches. So when he says he's learned how to be content, he's been through the negative side of things, right? I mean, that covered just about everything. And to me, and I don't really, you know, I'm an American, grew up in Jonesboro, Georgia. I don't really know what need is. I don't think in my life I've ever absolutely not gotten a meal that I needed. Like, I just have lived a life where there's been food, there's been a warm place to sleep. I don't know some of this kind of stuff. But the thing that reaches me a little bit here is when you talk about being rejected, because he received 39 lashes from the Jews. Well, that was his people. He was a high leader within the Jewish community. And when he turned to Christ, he was all of a sudden the enemy. And so the people that were once his friends or once respected and looked up to him, now were trying to kill him. And so, you know, he suffered not only physical stuff, but also just the emotional being abandoned by people that once respected and liked you. So he's been through a lot.
Steve?
Yes.
When you say abandoned by people that were his people, that abandoned by people he loved, I think maybe people in here, you know, don't understand hunger or being stoned or being shipwrecked or any of that kind of thing. But many people in here that I know have been abandoned by family members, by hurt very deeply, by, say, former marriage partners, hurt very deeply by children who went off in the wrong way, and yet have been able to have contentment in the Lord that is not necessarily a physical contentment, but it's a spiritual contentment.
Yeah, because when you break fellowship with somebody, they don't like you anymore because of something you did, you understand it. When you feel like you did your best, you did the right thing, whatever, and it just went sideways for reasons you don't control, that's a whole different level. Yes?
You know, the circumstances where Paul found himself is brought about by him being a servant of Christ. He was out of familiar waters. Jesus plucked him up and wanted him to be his witness.
Yeah.
So he didn't have his family. He didn't have his people that he knew. And immediately when he did that, he became an enemy to those who were sending him on errands.
Right.
To kill, to bring, to do all kinds of things. And so this is the suffering that comes to Paul because Jesus has now asked him to be his servant.
And so, yeah, so you could absolutely say, Paul might be in his heart going, you brought all this on, God. I followed you, and look what all happened as a result of it. Yes.
Well, yeah, one thing, all this suffering that he did also, his final take, you know, I just count it all joy for the opportunity to preach Christ. You know? I think that's a great picture of contentment right there.
Yeah.
And then count it all joy.
But you really, you know, you can read those words and not really think that much about it until you get just a glimpse of what his life was like. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't like a spiritual leader in today's world who lives in a regular house and has a family and church fellowship that loves them. He was out there on his own, relying completely on the Lord. So, though he also said, though, in that same verse, he said he knew how to live in prosperity. I would submit to you today that for those of us in this room, that's a bigger problem for us than dealing with difficulty. We're all going to have difficulty, I get that, but we also all have a lot of prosperity, especially when you think about us in the context of the world. And so I think, you know, you don't know what to do with what you've been given. Am I doing the right thing? We spend a lot of time thinking about, are we doing the right things with what God's blessed us with? Are we using them in the right way? Are we investing them properly? Are we sharing with others like we should? All those kind of things that come with prosperity comes pressure to make sure that you're doing with what God's given you, the things that God wants you to do. Did somebody raise their hand? Okay. But he also said he learned the secret. What's the secret? You just asked that a minute ago. What's the secret? I think the secret is that the focus is not on you and your circumstances and on your life. It's on the Lord. When your focus is on Him. Okay. So the secret is to take the eyeballs off of me. You know that book, the Purpose-Driven Life, the very first sentence. It's not about you. If you can just, I think about that sentence in that book probably more than any other book I can think of, because so many times the context of every life question is, how does it affect me? And I have to realize that it's not about me, and that ain't easy. I don't come to that very easily. Okay, so look at verse 13. He says, I can do all things through Him who strengthens me. How many high school athletes, entrepreneurs, etc., list that as their life verse? And it's real easy to pluck that little verse out, and boy, that sounds awesome, right? I can do anything. I can do all things. But you can do all things, that God wants you, that God sends you to do. You can't do anything you want. You can do all the things God equips you to do. And so it's really, it's interesting when you think about that verse, how it's plucked out so often and not put in the context of what Paul's talking about here, about hardship and difficulty.
From the back just a little bit, for me, and I know a lot of people, where he says, I know how to be abased. A lot of people may not know exactly what that is, but it's being belittled and degraded,
right,
and just beat down. That's something a lot of us deal with at work, all kind of other places, but mainly at work. So that's something that I know I've struggled with before. That, if I've talked about it probably before, but I had this colonel one time that's all he did to everybody, and I took it personally. It was really hard to deal with.
Yeah, I like being liked. I don't like it when people, don't like me or don't, I do. Most people do.
I have read another translation of that sentence that makes, in a way, a lot more sense. It said, I can go through all things through Christ.
That's the context that this is in. Is
Yeah.
Paul's talking about surviving and thriving through circumstances, not being the focus of the circumstances. And so, that's exactly right. Yes, sir.
Is it wrong to say, like my income, I have a income that can't take away, but isn't it a correct belief that if you have a part-time job, the money is a complement and not a necessity? If money is a necessity, then you need to walk away, because the joy of money is the root of sin.
I'm not sure I know your whole context, and that may be a personal conversation, but having a second job there's no requirement that comes along with that. It's you're earning money to be able to support your life, you're giving, all the things you're supposed to do with money. I don't know. There's obviously a point at which the work becomes its own God, and you can be careful. You got to be careful that you're not working for the acclaim or to build a bigger barn, as the Bible talks about. But I don't
love the money.
Right. It's not money's not the root of evil. Money's a brick, right? You can build a house build, or you can throw it through a window. The money doesn't care. The money is yes.
I want to add one thing to our question.
Okay.
Excuse me. When I entered, I would say, then we were using 5 years in high school. It was 1974. That was after finishing elementary. So they brought all the first year into the chapel. It was a Baptist high school. We were using Sankey, Songs of Solo then. And the song, the chapel, excuse me, the chaplain first told us was, he that is down needs fear no fall. And this content, the second verse was what he brought out. And that was what brought contentment into my life. It reads, I am content with what I have, little be it or much. And Lord, contentment still I crave, because thou savest such. If you ponder on that word, you will learn how to be content.
Okay.
You
All
know,
right.
I don't, first of all, I need to clarify something. I feel, my husband will not agree. I feel that I'm fairly content with what I have. My issue is feeling that my offsprings are not quite as, they need more,
Right.
okay?
Uh-huh.
And so my feeling is that I'm constantly trying to give and get them more.
Yeah, well, it's like it's just like the end of it. I was reading that thing about Paul. He's been shipwrecked and all this. At the end of it is, on top of all that is my daily concern about the churches. And I was thinking when I read that feels like what every parent thinks. Aside from all the stuff we're dealing with, I worry about my kids, right? I want them to be thriving and prospering and honoring God in their life. And you know what I have found, and I don't know if this is true about any of you, but when I find that my kids are following the Lord, all of a sudden their career path, their educational status, their money doesn't really matter. And I didn't really recognize that as being that those two things didn't exist together. I don't know. I just thought, well, you need to do all the right things. You need to keep working. You need to get your education. You need to work hard, all that stuff, which is all true. But whether or not money and possessions and stuff comes along with that or not is not the point. The point is, because you're going to live for Christ is what matters. All right, I got to keep moving on. So I know y'all got a lot to add, but we got to keep moving. So, but anyway, he says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. In 14, he says, nevertheless, you've done well to share with me in my difficulty. So he just makes them realize that he recognizes he received the tangible gift that they gave, and he appreciates it. And he goes on to say that he's has everything he needs. He's full and abundant right now, abundantly supplied. And he received everything from Epaphroditus that they sent, and it was a fragrant aroma, an acceptable sacrifice pleasing to God. And my God shall supply all your needs according to his riches and glory. Just a reminder that as much as Paul recognized they sent the gift and he received the gift didn't come from them, it came from the Lord. And he's thanking God for their commitment to God to help supply his needs. I think it's just an important difference there that he is focused on God's provision and not just the people that sent it. All right, so I'm going to move on and hit you with about 5 things. I hope we don't run out of time. But these are sort of some practical things we can think about. Because when you think about contentment, my head naturally goes to money and stuff. Those are the 2 things that really come to my mind. And the ones that I find myself struggling with of, how many golf clubs does somebody really need? Well, the answer is 1 more than I have right now, probably. But, how many of whatever it is that you need? What is your thing? Everybody's got something that they love to spend their time and their money on and that they get joy from. And those are they're not bad. But it does have to have a balance in your life. When you think about how much is enough, here's 5 different things I wanted to kind of run through. 5 areas that impact contentment in your life. Okay, the first one is other people. Mm-hmm. How do you see others? Are they competitors or are they companions? Think about that for just a second. Are they competitors? Am I looking at my life going, well, I'm happy for them as long as I make a little more money than they do. I'm happy for them as long as my house is on a better street than theirs is. Yes?
Wow, that was my life's mantra. Up until I was saved, everybody was a competitor. After that, it just flipped totally. So, wow, that's profound.
Yeah, it's really, because You know, I'm as guilty of this as anybody. But you're talking to somebody and they tell you about something that happened in your life, and you go, "Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying because this just happened to me or my friend or whatever," and you sort of go over the top with an even bigger story than they just told you. It's so easy to do in this society, and in my life, I'm just calling myself out. I do it all the time. But am I judging the adequacy of what I have by comparing it to what others have? That is, the American way, right? We do that here. Here's the question, I think, is, have I gotten to a place where I can see the success? Do I see the success of others as fuel for joy or fuel for jealousy? Not that joy, but just joy in general. Is it fuel for my joy when I hear about somebody just got promoted, got a raise, got engaged, got married, went on a vacation? Am I excited for them and happy for them, or am I jealous of them? And maybe the answer is not the same with every other person, right? Maybe if it's your kids, you're really happy for them. If it's somebody else, maybe not so much. But that is a tough one there. That's one of the number one things is how am I looking at other people? Somebody had Hebrews 12:1. Would they read that? You ever had that one? Okay.
Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witness, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us.
Okay. The reason I picked that verse was not for the race part, although it's an important part of it, but it's the very bit he says the race that is set before us. My race isn't your race. God didn't give me the same task he gave Billy Graham or Mel Blackaby or somebody else. He gave me my task, and I'm running the race he gave me, not your race. And so that means that our lives are going to look different, even though we can both be following God exactly the way He wants us to go. That I've got to run my race. I'm not trying to run everybody else's race. And that also steps to, and as a parent, I'm the worst at this, is I don't get to tell you how to run your race all the time. I like to do that, yes.
And the word mind your business, it can be taken wrong. Because really, mind your business, pay attention to your own life, to your own destiny. Be content with what you're doing.
Okay. But it's a tough one, right? Because you want to tell everybody else how to do it.
In other words, you have your purpose, they have your godly purpose, they have their godly purpose, and the purpose for each and the reason for living for each is totally different because God gave you a specific purpose to live up to.
Right.
And when you feel that purpose, then He'll call
Okay.
you home.
Somebody had Romans 12:10. Who had that?
Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourself.
Above yourself, just like the humility.
Joy.
Honor one another above yourself. If you're doing that, then you're going to treat them more as a companion and a fellow follower of Christ versus a competitor. Yeah, Greg.
I have a problem that I need to keep things in context. When we're talking all these in the New Testament, and especially after Romans and forward, we're talking letters to other Christians. It's not to the,
That's
to
right.
the world in general.
That's right.
But yeah, so one context is I've got some people that are not Christians. They're kind of, but when I'm thinking of this, honor one another above yourself, or honor them above yourself. It's one another, other Christians. It's not those type of.
Well, I don't think because somebody's not a Christian,
No.
I'm not off the hook.
No,
That doesn't let me
no.
off the hook.
Honor, though. There's a difference between, to me, honoring. I don't want to honor their actions or their behavior.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Yeah, of course.
And okay.
No, that's reasonable. But the whole point there is
It's not only for
to
Christians.
is other people.
Other people, not
Go
only
for it.
Christians. Like I said, we stay with a Muslim now. But if you are content, you might be able to win her.
That's right. Okay.
able to win out.
Number 2. So the first one was others. The second one is difficulty. We've been talking a little bit about that already, but difficulties are coming in our lives. Who had John 16:33?
I did. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world.
In this world you'll have trouble. My New American Standard says tribulation. I don't know. Those may mean the exact same thing, but boy, tribulation just sounds scarier to me. In this world, tough times are coming. And somebody said it a week or two ago, you're either headed towards a crisis, in a crisis, or heading out of a crisis. It's just, that's the human condition, right? And so troubles are coming. That is like, he didn't say in the world you might have tough times. He said in the world you will have tribulation. So during difficult times, do I seek direction from God, or do I look for somebody to blame? One is called godly grieving. One is called sinful grumbling. Okay? Those are two different ways to respond to tough times. Grieving asks the question, God, please show me where you are in this situation. Because you don't get it. You're not happy that you're in pain or having a terrible diagnosis or lost your job or whatever the trouble is. But you're not blaming somebody. You're looking, Lord, what are you doing? What am I supposed to be getting from this? How am I supposed to be responding to this? That leads a sincere Christian towards hope. And hope makes a huge difference, right, during trouble. When you're in trouble, when you have hope, it makes all the difference. There's hope right there.
Me, when I said before, but my problem is that I forgive the evildoers, and I'm not angry. I have learned to be content.
Wow. I mean, look, guys, she had a difficult problem.
She forgave far quicker than I did. I just want you to know.
Same problem, and it happened to her. And that's right. So,
I took up her mantle.
but that's right, because that leads you to your own name, hope. When you have that kind of attitude, what does a grumbling person say? Why me? Or what's the other one? How could a loving God ... let this happen? Do
it's
this?
Not fair.
It's not fair. Yeah, it's not fair. So grumbling leads to despair. It leads you down a hole, right? So part of the secret is to ask the right questions. Lord, what are you doing through this? Lord, how do I respond to this? Yes, ma'am.
It says you never offend him or discredit the name of Christ.
Okay. All right, look at number 3.
Another question you can ask, though, is what next, Lord?
Yeah, what do you the whole thing is, what's going on, Lord, and what am I supposed to do about it? What do you want from me? All right, so number 1 was others. Number 2 was difficulty. The third one is, what's the source? What drives me? What makes me go? What is my fuel? Am I expecting things, stuff, money, acclaim, whatever, to provide or do things that only God can do? Or does my joy come from the Lord? Two different things, right? Am I looking for my joy and my nature to be driven by stuff and things and success and acclaim, or am I looking for it only through the Lord? Who had Matthew 6:19-21?
I do.
Okay.
Do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourself treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.
Yeah. That's I don't think I have a life verse. I tend to change all the time, but that's a biggie for me. That is, I need to tell myself that verse all the time. Because I have to recognize, I wrote down here, all your stuff will eventually go to Goodwill or a trash bin, right? Eventually, no one wants it, or it's not usable. And yet we spend a lot of time, I certainly do, looking for the new thing that I need. we have to recognize that things aren't going to satisfy us. Who had Ecclesiastes 10? It was 5, 10 through 12.
Whoever loves money never has money enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. This too is meaningless. As goods increase, so do those who consume them. And what benefit are they to the owner, except to feast his eyes on them? The sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of a rich man permits him no sleep.
And this was written by the richest man who ever lived, right? Mm-hmm. So Solomon understood what abundance did in your life and didn't do. And he wrote a whole book here talking about how it was all a waste of time. It was chasing the wind. Again, all your stuff's going somewhere else. We need some things to survive, but things can't satisfy our real needs. We do need things. You know, it's the verse that Natalie read a minute ago started with, your Heavenly Father knows you need these things. Don't worry about it. He knows you need food and clothes and all that. But ultimately, that shouldn't be the focus of your day. They are not going to satisfy your deep needs. Okay, so we got others. Where are my notes? Others. We got difficulty. We got the source. What's driving me? Here's the fourth one. Balance. Balance. So, have I found a balance between two different things, complacency and perfectionism? This was interesting for me to read about this week, but I mentioned this in class a few weeks ago, that I like the saying that somebody taught me, where I need to work as though everything depends on me and pray knowing everything depends on God. That I've got to find that balance where I'm working and as hard as I can work. Who had Colossians 3, 23 and 24? Yes?
Whatever you do, work at it with your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving.
It is the Lord Christ. When you go to work and you do whatever you do,
that's your best.
You need to be thinking about it. I need to do my very best because I'm not working for the boss. I'm working for the Lord. I'm working for the boss, not my boss. And so I need to be thinking about it in that context. That I need to do my best, even if it's a menial task. I need to, all that stuff. And that's really, I focus on that a lot in my life. I probably, my biggest concern and failure is towards trying to do everything perfectly all the time and expecting everybody else to too, and that's not good. But I do like to make sure I'm doing my best at whatever I try to do. I think I learned that from my dad. He used to tell me to do your best. Okay, but the second part of that, pray knowing that everything depends on God. So look at 1 Corinthians 2:9. Who had that one?
But as it is written, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those who love him.
Yeah, we don't even know. It hasn't even entered into our minds yet what God's got in store for us. And so who are we to just hit with menial requests? We need to be thinking about, what does God want? And if I follow him, all the things that I could ever want that I don't even have the capacity to dream up now are headed for me. He's prepared those already. God has plans, and I need to know and be happy with the fact that his plan is best, which isn't easy because I think my plan's the best a lot of times. And then God has to remind me that my plan isn't his plan. Okay, the last one. This one really is kind of draws it all together, I hope. Expectations or amazement. Am I expecting to do God? Let me try that all over again. Am I expecting God to do things he's never agreed to do? Am I counting on him to come through in a way that he never said he was going to supply me with? Am I expecting him to give me, and do I have a feeling of entitlement? And do I feel entitled to certain blessings or certain wins or possessions because of who I am and how hard I worked? Have I given myself that attitude of entitlement? Or and this is the second way to do it. Do I walk through life amazed that there's an almighty God who created me and demonstrated his love for me by sending Jesus to die for my sins so I can live with him forever? I mean, you know, at the end of the day, if we dwell on that thought alone, a lot of the stuff we've talked about is going to pale in importance. It's going to be down the list, because if you just walk through life going, there's a God who created all this and he loves me enough that he knew I wasn't worthy of heaven, and he came here in a way that allowed me to get to heaven. And not just in a magical way, he had to die for my benefit. Yes, sir.
Purpose over problems is huge. Practicing God's purpose over our everyday problems. And keep, you know, the Bible says, keep your mind on heavenly things, things that are of good report, things that are good. You know, and it also says, you know, in this world you're going to be persecuted, but count it all joy, your reward in heaven and grace.
Yeah.
Focusing on things above it is really big for all.
I mean, I think about half of what you just said is all out of the same book of Philippians. It's all right there. He count, you know, to focus your mind on those things, the good things. Yes.
In other words, God is not a bottle where a genie comes out, and he's not a catalog. He's not a wish list. Because I have the confidence approaching God in that whenever I ask for his will, and if he hears me, I'll know because I received what I asked for in the beginning.
Well, and some things you ask for, he's got a different plan, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so we have to accept the fact that sometimes the answer is wait. Sometimes the answer is no. I got something better. And, you know, if I look back through my life, oftentimes the things that I wanted God to supply me with and he didn't, later on, if I look back on it, I got something way better that I didn't even think about was a possibility at the moment. Yes.
I think sometimes ago, if you all remember, the Baptist, we studied the purpose in life in Sunday school. Mm-hmm. That's been years ago. And that made me to understand that in any condition, I will keep thanking God. Yeah. Because there is a purpose for that to happen.
Yeah, it says thank me in all things, not just the fun things, in all things. Well, that's it for the day. Let me pray, and we'll get out of here. Thank y'all for your participation. It's been great, great help. Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for this time together with your people, in your presence, opening your word. And just pray that the things that we discussed, the things that were mentioned, would be exactly what you wanted to have said, and that you would reach into each of our hearts and just address us at whatever the point of need is in our lives. Lord, help us to find contentment in possessions, in our standing in society, in our standing with friends and family. Lord, give us contentment as we walk through sometimes difficult paths. And Lord, help us to handle prosperity. Help us to know how to handle prosperity the way you want us to. Lord, thank you for loving us more than anything else. We're just amazed that you care enough about us to invest in us the way you have and to save us. And so we thank you for that. We ask you to just continue to guide us and bless us and help us to honor you in all that we do and all that we think. We ask these things in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen.